The audience roared as the camera panned across the panel of The View. The lights gleamed off the glass table, and the hosts wore their best morning TV smiles, polished, confident, ready to spar if need be. And then came the reason half the country was watching that morning. Blake Shelton, the country superstar himself, strolling onto the stage with his easy Oklahoma swagger and mischievous grin. "Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Blake Shelton," Whoopi Goldberg announced, clapping as Blake waved to the audience. Blake tipped an imaginary hat. "Good morning, y'all," he drawled, flashing a grin that set the front row screaming. "I don't usually wake up this early unless I'm fishing." The crowd laughed. It was effortless for him, that charm, that laid-back humor that made him both relatable and untouchable at the same time. He took his seat, stretching his long legs under the table as Joy Behar leaned in, smirking like a cat about to pounce. "Well, well," Joy said, swirling her coffee cup. "Blake Shelton in the house. A real cowboy among city girls. I hope we don't scare you too much." Blake chuckled, his voice a warm rumble. "I don't scare easy, Joy. I've been married twice and done live TV for 20 years. I'm pretty much bulletproof at this point." The audience howled. Whoopi slapped the table and even Sonny Hostin cracked a grin. But Joy wasn't done. She leaned in again, tone dripping with playful sarcasm. "Oh, come on, Blake," she said, waving a hand. "You're from Oklahoma. You're what? Beer, boots, and barbecue? I mean, you country guys are like a walking stereotype." There was laughter from the crowd, but it was thin, hesitant. The smile on Blake's face didn't waver, but something behind his eyes shifted, just barely. "Guess that makes me predictable, huh?" he said lightly. "I'll take that over being fake any day." Whoopi raised an eyebrow, sensing the edge under his humor. "Uh-oh," she teased. "Y'all better be careful now, Joy. Country boys don't play." Joy laughed, brushing it off. "Oh, please, I'm just joking. I like Blake. He's one of the good ones. I just can't tell sometimes if the whole cowboy act is real or for show." Blake tilted his head slightly, his grin still in place, but now more like a blade than a smile. "What act?" Joy blinked, unprepared for how sharp the response came. "Well, you know, the whole man of the land, salt of the earth thing. I mean, you're Hollywood now. You're hanging out with Gwen Stefani, not roping cattle." A low murmur rippled through the audience. Blake chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes this time. He leaned forward on the table, voice soft, deliberate. "Joy, you ever think maybe you can be both? You can love country life and have a life outside of it. Just 'cause I'm married to Gwen don't mean I stop being who I am." Joy smirked again, trying to regain her footing. "Oh, come on, Blake, it's just TV banter. Don't get all sentimental on me now." But Blake wasn't taking the bait this time. His tone stayed even, but there was a firmness beneath it. There's a difference between banter and belittling. You say stuff like that enough and it starts sounding less like a joke and more like a jab. The room fell into that strange silence, the kind that only happens when live television starts teetering on the edge. Whoopi shot a look to the producers off stage, but the audience was already murmuring, their energy shifting from amusement to anticipation. Joy blinked, her smile faltering just slightly. "I wasn't belittling you, Blake. You're one of the biggest stars in the world. I'm sure you can take a little ribbing." He leaned back, folding his hands calmly on the table. "Oh, I can take it. I've had tougher critics than you. But it's funny. People like to tease folks like me about being simple, small-town, or old-fashioned. You act like that's a bad thing, isn't it?" Joy shot back, half joking, half serious. Blake's eyes narrowed just slightly, though his smile stayed fixed. "Not where I come from. Where I'm from, we treat people with respect, even when we disagree. We don't hide insults behind jokes." That landed. The crowd went silent again, the sound of the cameras and lights suddenly louder than before. Whoopi raised a hand, trying to cut the tension. All right, let's dial it back a notch. Joy's just messing with you, Blake." But Blake shook his head lightly, eyes still on Joy. "I know. I get it. That's what this show's about, different opinions. But sometimes it feels like people don't want to hear ours." That line earned a wave of applause from the audience. It wasn't raucous, but it was steady, a pulse of agreement from viewers who understood exactly what he meant. Joy's lips pressed together. She didn't like being the one on defense, especially not on her own turf. "You think you're not being heard, Blake? Please. You have a microphone bigger than anyone here." "Yeah," he said, nodding. "And I use it to sing, not to tear people down." The audience erupted again, louder this time. Blake smiled faintly, almost apologetically, but the damage was done. The crowd had chosen a side. Joy leaned back in her chair, trying to recover her composure. "Well," she said finally, "I guess we hit a nerve." Blake chuckled quietly. "Nah, you just reminded me why I prefer Nashville interviews." Whoopi let out a laugh that was half relief, half disbelief. "Oh Lord, somebody get me some popcorn. This is gonna be one of those mornings." Sarah tried to break the tension, jumping in quickly. "So, Blake, your new album, Heartland Highway, tell us about it. What inspired it?" Blake took the lifeline with a smile, turning smoothly back to her. "It's about getting back to roots. Real stories. Real people. You know, not everyone lives in a city. A lot of folks out there just trying to make it, doing their best. That's who I write for." The commercial break stretched longer than usual. Producers were whispering frantically into headsets. Crew members hurried across the stage, and yet no one spoke to the two people sitting at the center of it all, Blake Shelton and Joy Behar. The energy that had filled the room during the last segment hadn't dissipated. It had simply changed form, turning from laughter into tension, from polite banter into something much sharper. Blake sat back in his chair, arms crossed, calm but firm. His blue eyes were steady, his jaw set in that quiet way that meant he wasn't done. Joy tapped her pen against the table, pretending to be unfazed, though the set of her shoulders betrayed that she was thinking hard. Whoopi exhaled, muttering under her breath, "Lord help us when those cameras come back on." The red light above the main camera blinked back to life. "Welcome back to The View," Whoopi said, voice bright and practiced, though the slight tension around her smile betrayed her unease. "We're here with the one and only Blake Shelton, talking about his new album, Heartland Highway." The audience applauded, loud, eager, still buzzing from what they'd just witnessed before the break. Blake gave a nod, his trademark grin returning, but it didn't reach his eyes this time. "Good to be back," he said dryly. Sarah Haynes leaned forward, trying to smooth the energy. "So Blake, before the break, you were talking about your album being about real people. I think that really hit home for a lot of viewers. Could you tell us more about what inspired it?" "Sure," he said easily, turning toward her. "It's about connection. You know, I grew up around folks who didn't have much but always had each other. It's about stories. Heartbreak, hard work, laughter, family. That's what country music's about. It's not about dividing people. It's about bringing them together." The crowd clapped warmly. For a brief moment, the air felt lighter again, but Joy couldn't help herself. She leaned forward, voice tinged with a challenging tone. "That's all great, Blake, but don't you think sometimes country music and that whole heartland pride thing gets a little exclusive? Like it's not for everyone?" The audience murmured, a ripple of tension moving through the crowd. Whoopi shot Joy a look that screamed, "Not again." Blake turned his chair slightly toward Joy, his expression calm but unyielding. "What do you mean, not for everyone?" Joy shrugged, playing it off as casual. "Well, a lot of your songs, and country songs in general, talk about small towns, faith, patriotism. It can feel a little alienating to people who don't fit into that lifestyle, that worldview." Blake's eyes narrowed slightly, though his smile stayed in place. "You ever been to a Blake Shelton concert, Joy?" She blinked. "Can't say I have." "Well, you should. You'll see people of every kind. City folks, farmers, kids, grandparents, rich, broke, doesn't matter. Nobody cares who you voted for, what you believe, or where you came from. They're all just there to have a good time and listen to some damn music. That's the whole point." The crowd erupted in applause, louder this time, with a few cheers. Joy smiled tightly. "Well, that's nice, but you have to admit, some of your fans—" Blake interrupted her politely but firmly. Careful, Joy. Her eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? He leaned in slightly, his voice calm but commanding. You were about to generalize millions of people you've never met. Don't do that.